kids. I am Annie Barrows, which means that I am the author of this very fine book called The Best of Iggy, which is illustrated by Sam Ricks. And I'm going to read you a chapter from this book today. Now, one of the things that you're supposed to do when you read a chapter of your book out loud is you're supposed to read the first chapter. But I'm not going to do that because I'm the author and I can do whatever I want. So I am going to read to you from chapter 9. It all began one day after school. Most afternoons, Iggy hung out with Diego or Aiden or Arch or somebody else he liked. Or he had soccer. Or he went with his mom to pick up Molly or take Maribel to dance class. Those are his sisters. But on this day, his mom had a meeting. Maribel and her friend Haley were going to walk Iggy home from school and watch him for 2 hours until his mom got home. Iggy didn't like it. What did watch mean, anyway? Here's a picture. Did it mean that they were going to tell him what to do? They'd better not. Maribel was only 2.5 years older than he was, and Haley? The day Haley got her new cell phone, she had dropped it in the toilet. What gave her the right to watch him? Nothing. Walking home from school, Iggy decided that he wouldn't let Maribel and Haley boss him around. They might think they were in charge of him, but they weren't. They might think they could ruin his afternoon, but they couldn't. He'd show them. Actually, though, Maribel and Haley didn't try to ruin Iggy's afternoon. In fact, they seemed to be completely uninterested in Iggy or his afternoon. Iggy took 3 cookies for snack. Maribel didn't say, "You know you're only supposed to have 2, Iggy." She said, "Do you want me to pour you some milk, Ig?" "I can pour my own milk," said Iggy firmly. "Okay," said Maribel. He spilled a little. After his snack, Iggy said, "I'm going to play Monster Track." Maribel didn't say, "You know you're not supposed to play computer games in the afternoon, Iggy." She said, "Okay." And then she said, "Ooh, Haley, look at this cute shirt." Iggy played Monster Track. He played for 1 hour and 10 minutes. He was only supposed to play on the computer for 1 hour a day, but nobody stopped him. He kept looking at the clock. 9 minutes. 10 minutes. Where were they? Iggy got up. He went to listen in the hallway. "So then," she said, "Kylie, you can't wear those. It's against the rules." And then Maribel paused. "Iggy, stop listening." "I'm not." "Go away or I'll tell Mom you bugged us." "What? You call that watching me?" Iggy yelled. "I could be dead for all you know. Go away." Iggy stomped as hard as he could into the nearest room, which happened to be the bathroom, and he slammed the door. He locked it too. So there. If they didn't want him around, he'd stay in the bathroom. And then when they had to pee, he wouldn't let them in. So ha. Iggy flushed the toilet. A flush, a flush, a flush. Iggy draped toilet paper gently over the water to see if it would float. It didn't. Iggy put 8 drops of shampoo into the toilet. Flush. Boring. Iggy went to the sink part of the bathroom. He turned Maribel's toothbrush upside down so that the brush part was touching the yucky part of the toothbrush cup. So ha. He brushed his hair with Maribel's hairbrush. He wished he had lice. Not really. Iggy turned the water on and waited until it got warm. Then he washed his hands. He turned the soap around and around until his hands foamed with millions of bubbles. He tried putting some on his chin for a beard. It dripped off. That was too watery. Shaving cream would be better. His dad wouldn't care if he used a little bit of shaving cream. Sometimes when his dad shaved, he gave Iggy his own glop of shaving cream to smear around. This was just the same thing, only without Dad. Iggy found the shaving cream. He shook it the way he'd seen his dad do, and then he sprayed. Whoa! That stuff really flew. Iggy wiped it off the wall and put it on his face, patting it into a beard shape. Ha! He laughed. Oh, so this is what he was going to look like when he was an old guy. Better put on a mustache, too. Right here, this is when Iggy began to lose his mind. Hey, how about a little bit in his hair to make it white, too? Did he ever think, maybe I shouldn't? No, he didn't. He needed more to make it really white. Yeah, that's it, all over. It was like he forgot there would be life after this minute. Iggy looked in the mirror at his white beard and his white mustache and his white hair. He still looked like a kid. He needed wrinkles. He opened his mom's makeup drawer. Yeah, the stuff she put on her eyes, eyeliner. Yeah, cool. Iggy gave himself a lot of wrinkles. Arr, he mumbled, like an old guy. Iggy's mom's car pulled into the driveway. Arr, he groaned. He was really old. Iggy? Called Mary Bell outside the door. You okay? Gasped Iggy softly. Iggy, did you hurt yourself? What a great idea. Blood. And here was all the lipstick in the world just waiting for him. It was like his brain had gone on vacation. Iggy drew a trail of blood down the side of his face. It seemed small, more like a trickle. He didn't want to wreck the wrinkles or the white hair, but it was a shame not to be bloodier. Arms! Iggy pulled up his sleeve and drew an enormous gush of blood on one arm. Whoa, it looked like someone had tried to cut his arm off. Chop! His head. He drew a big circle of blood around his neck. Someone had tried to cut off his head. Fun! Too bad the top of the lipstick had snapped off. He could have done his stomach, too. Oh, he moaned, staggering around the bathroom. They got me. I'm home, kids, called Iggy's mom, coming in the front door. Mom, shouted Mary Bell, I think Iggy's hurt. He's in the bathroom crying and I can't get in. Now, most of Iggy's brain was on vacation. The only part still at work was the hand-moving part, because what Iggy did then was flip the lock on the bathroom door, fling it open, and jump out into the hallway covered in shaving cream, eyeliner, and lipstick. Ow! He bellowed. Chapter 10. Extenuating circumstances. Actually, there are no extenuating circumstances in that bad thing that Iggy did. At least I can't think of any. It wasn't as if anyone had locked Iggy in the bathroom. It wasn't as if Mary Bell and Haley were giving Iggy a hard time or bossing him. No, the truth is that Iggy was bored and lonely. So he went into the bathroom, and while he was there, he lost his mind. However, I would like to point out that he didn't do anything terrible. Anything amazingly terrible, that is. It was not so good that Mary Bell cried, but she only cried for a minute or two. It definitely wasn't good that his mom dropped her coffee cup when he jumped out of the bathroom, but there was hardly anything in it. The worst thing was the lipstick. The lipstick was ruined. His mom was pretty upset about that. She wasn't happy about the eyeliner either, but it wasn't ruined. There was just less of it. The lipstick was bad. Iggy had to buy a whole new one with his own money. Iggy figured that lipstick would cost about the same as a marker, but it didn't. It cost $13. That was when Iggy wished a lot that he hadn't gone too far. But is this terrible? Really terrible? I don't think so, and I will tell you 2 reasons why. Number 1, ruining lipstick or eyeliner is not life-threatening. It is possible that wearing that stuff isn't very good for you anyway. Number 2, sometimes when people lose their minds, they do way worse things than Iggy did. Like, for instance, they write on the walls with lipstick. At least Iggy didn't do that. Unfortunately, neither of these things is an extenuating circumstance. And if you want to find out about the other things that Iggy does, you have to read the book yourself. Hi kids, I'm Annie Barrows and I am the author of The Best of Iggy. Now, in The Best of Iggy, my pal Iggy, that guy right there, well, he does some stuff that he wishes he hadn't done. Basically, we all do stuff that we wish we hadn't done. And I think that there are 3 types of things we do that we wish we hadn't done. Number 1, there are the things that we say we wish we hadn't done, but really, we just wish we hadn't gotten in trouble for. Number 2, there are the things we wish we hadn't done quite as much as we did them. And then there's number 3. Number 3 is bad. Number 3 are those things we do that we really, really wish we hadn't done or even thought of. In this book, Iggy does all 3 types of things he wishes he hadn't done. And today, because I can't be doing all the writing in the world, I think you should pick one of those 3 kinds of things that we wish we hadn't done and write about something you wish you hadn't done. However, if you don't want to write about that, like you don't really want to remember how much trouble you got in, there's a couple of other things you could write about too. Like, for instance, would you rather break your arm or your leg? Why? Or here's another example you could write about. If you could have one magical power or superpower, which one would you have? I would choose invisibility. It'd be so cool. Okay, and here's number 3. Do you think it's possible that you could break a world's record someday? Which one would you most like to break? Personally, I would love to break glass by screaming, but I can't. That's what's so great about writing. You can make yourself do stuff that you could never really do in real life. Anyway, have fun. Don't get in too much trouble.
Hey there, my name's Sam Ricks and I'm the illustrator of The Best of Iggy. Today I'm going to show you how to draw Iggy. Okay, to draw Iggy, you're going to need a few things. First of all, you're going to need a piece of paper, a pencil. You're going to need a marker of some kind that's black, and you'll need an eraser. I also happen to have a really big eraser for very big mistakes. You'll also need a black colored pencil. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to sketch out what Iggy looks like. We're going to make a little circle for his face. And what I want you to do is not draw too hard. If you draw too hard, you won't be able to erase. I'm going to make a couple of little lines for where his neck goes. I'm going to make some circles for his ears. And then I'm going to make a little mark that's a little piece of a triangle for his nose. Now I'm going to go ahead and make his eyebrows. And then Iggy usually has, when he's in a resting face, he usually just has dots for eyes. If he's mad, then he gets bigger eyes with bulgier eyeballs. And then we're going to go ahead and draw his hair, which is basically just a bunch of squiggles on top of his head. Now we're going to draw a little smile on his face. There you go. Now I'm going to just slightly adjust this so, because his chin looks a little bit big, so I'm going to just slightly adjust that so his chin's not quite so big, his neck's not quite so big. I'm going to go ahead and draw a little scoop for his neckline and some little curves for his shirt. There you have it. So far, so good. Now I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to go ahead and draw on top of the lines that I want to keep. The great thing about drawing Iggy is, since he's got a little bit of a personality, it's okay for the lines to be a little bit fast and rough, because he's a little bit fast and rough himself. Great. So now I've got Iggy's face, but I need to get rid of all of those pencil lines. So I'm going to take my trusty eraser. Should I use the really big one? I guess I'll try it. I'm going to take my really big eraser I promise this eraser is not necessarily meant to be a product plug for the book. It just so happened that it's kind of a huge eraser that the publishing company gave me, and it's kind of awesome, so I'm using it. I'm going to erase out all of those other pencil lines that I had, so that all that's left is what I drew with the marker. You want to make sure your marker's dry before you do this, because if you don't, your marker's going to smear all over the place. If your mom will let you, a permanent marker is kind of nice too, because that way the marker won't smear at all. Okay, now you'll notice when you see the cover of the book and when you see the other illustrations in the book that there's some shading on Iggy. I usually use watercolor paper when I'm drawing Iggy, but I don't have watercolor paper with me right now, and I'm guessing that maybe you don't either, so I'm going to draw it on just normal paper. But I do have a colored pencil, and I'm going to go ahead and shade. So what I like to think about is kind of where the light is coming from in my pictures. I'm going to pretend that the light's coming from up here on the top right and coming down onto his face. So that means that when I draw the shadows are going to be on the other side of the picture. So I'm going to draw shadows on this side. Maybe a little bit of a shadow under his nose. Maybe a little bit of shading around where his eyes go. And then I like to draw lots of scratchy hair stuff where his hair is supposed to be. And this you can get kind of wild and crazy. It's kind of funny because his hair is wild and crazy too. So I like to go a little wild with that. Can you hear my kids back there in the background? My kids are eating lunch right now, so ha ha ha, joke's on them. I'm drawing while they're having to eat like celery and things like that. One thing that is kind of interesting is sometimes people draw hair just on top of people's heads, but if you draw a little bit further down, the hair a little bit further down, it doesn't make it look like the hair is sitting on top of the person's head. It makes it look like the hair is actually part of their head. Like, you know, if you draw something like this and just put the hair on top of the head, then it doesn't look like they actually have hair except for on the top of their head. Nobody has hair only on the top. They have hair all the way down to where their forehead is, right? Anyway, you get the gist. I'm going to add a little bit of shading to his nose and a little bit of shading to his cheeks. When I do that, the reason I like to do that is because people have just like usually a little bit of redness to their cheeks and a little bit of redness to their nose. And even though this is just black and white, it helps us to remember that the color might be a little bit different if we saw him in color, and you'd have a little bit of rosiness to the cheeks and nose. Iggy also has freckles, so I'm going to add some freckles there. Can't forget the stripes on Iggy's shirt. Those are key. Sweet. There we have Iggy. Now, if you want to try some fun iterations of Iggy, some fun little differences in Iggy, let me show you this. So when Iggy's angry, his eyebrows curve up like this. And usually what he does is he has a little bit bigger eyeballs, like that. So if you want to draw an angry Iggy, or a sad Iggy, when he gets sad, his eyebrows kind of curve up like this. Or when he's annoyed or bored, his eyeballs start looking a little bit like sunglasses even. And sometimes I like to draw little like rings under his eyes for when he's upset or sad. So again, I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to take my marker and then draw on top, only on the lines that I want to keep. Gigantor eraser, it's coming back. Then, shading. Do a little bit of shadows under his eyes. When you do that, it makes him look angry. It's kind of nice, kind of fun. A little bit of shading on the nose, maybe a little bit of shading underneath. Some shading for the cheeks. When I'm doing the shading with this colored pencil, I like to draw pretty lightly. So I don't do too much shading at first. If I draw really, really hard at the very beginning, then I don't have anywhere to go when I want to draw darker, because I already drew so dark. Now I know we haven't really showed how to draw Iggy's body. Maybe we'll do that a different time. For now, his head is just enough for us. There you go. Alright, now one last little pro tip. When I actually am doing this for real, when I'm doing this for an illustration for the book, I will use not a marker, I'll use what's called a brush pen. And I'm going to go ahead and grab that really fast, and I'll show you what that looks like. So a brush pen is super cool because when you do a brush pen, you can get variations of line, so thicks and thins of line. So when I'm drawing Iggy with a brush pen, it adds a little bit more expressiveness to my line. You can buy a brush pen like this at like Hobby Lobby or Michael's or something like that. I think they cost somewhere around 15 bucks, which is pretty pricey for, you know, an art tool for kids, but it's kind of nice too. So if you want to try that out, sometime. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And that, my friends, is how you draw Iggy. My name's Sam Ricks. Thanks for watching.